Wow. Thank you all for coming and joining me and us in these tricky times, because I truly believe these are tricky times. And once I started writing the book, which is a few years ago, I thought of the title Tricky Times, and unfortunately they become trickier every day. So I'd like to share some thoughts on what happens when change is needed, because I came in many organizations. I'm an anthropologist, trying to understand how people shape cultures and cultures shape people. I work in organizations to help grow the culture and make sure that the leadership does well and that people understand each other. And many people say, well, we need change. There's something change is needed. And I think, what's happening when so many people say change is needed, that we talk about transformation? Just to check, which of you use the word change once in a while in life or professional life? Yeah, and transformation, do we have that in the room as well? Transition, maybe? Innovation? Yeah. So if we use it that often, it should be very easy, right? But somehow it's not. So I tried to understand what happens to people when they go through change. So I'd like to share a few of those thoughts. And that means that we need to start with the word people. Because people in change, that's something else. But what happens with people? It's like human beings. Just to check, do you know human beings? Have you seen them before? You met someone today, maybe? Yeah? I think there's a couple of things we all need to know about people. And I'm sad that not many people know, so I'll share it with you. The first thing we need to understand before we go to people in change is that people live in groups. This might not be the biggest insight of today, which I hope, but the thing is that we often forget the impact of this fact. Because people live in groups, you live in groups, that means that we might live in different groups. That means that there will be boundaries between our groups, and that means that it's very, very interesting what will happen on the boundary between our groups. Do I say, oh, wow, you're from a different group, that's nice? Or do I start fighting because you're from a different group? What happens at the boundary of different groups? Plus, you live in a group. The people in your group have views, which you might share, which you might not share. Do you speak out if you don't share the views or not? Because it can happen that they kick you out of your group. And that's the worst thing that can happen. So we're very, very clear that we want to try to stay in our group. People live in groups, plus people, they believe in stories, which is also funny. We believe in stories. We're narratives people. We're storytelling beings, and we can't do without it because nothing has meaning of itself. We have to create it together. I'll repeat that. Nothing has meaning of itself. We have to create the meaning together. Therefore, we create a narrative, a story we start believing in. And the funny thing is, we people, we Homo sapiens, we are able to believe in stories which are not true. They're not true. But we shape our world according to that story. People shape stories. And the ones who are very good in the behavior which fits with the story of the people believe in, they become very important in the group. We are hierarchical beings. Just to make it very clear, people believe in stories. Let's give an example. There's behavior, every behavior just is. The question is that behavior good or false? Is it true or false? Is it nice? Is it not nice? So if I ask you the question, hitting someone in the face, just checking, is that good or bad? Bad. It depends. Now it becomes scary, right? So in what cases would that be good?
Defending yourself.
Defending yourself. Yeah.
Like Donald Trump is in front of you.
Oh, wait, we raised the bar there. Donald Trump, okay, let's see. Donald Trump is in front of you. What will happen? Oh.
I'm terrified. Well, I would feel physically like I would have to perhaps defend myself.
Who shares that feeling? Yeah. Yeah, so hitting someone in the face is not always bad, is it? Self-defense? What? Sports? Yeah, so the context can define, that's good. Parents who give their children for educational purpose. Is that good or bad? I can see you look at me and say, you don't know my kids. You know. Teachers who hit pupils at school just for educational means. Is that good or bad? Oh, you're very clear on that. So parents, we kind of understand, but teachers is a no-go. But I'm sure if I ask the question, who experienced as a youngster in school that the teacher hit you somehow? There's always a few, and that says something about your age or the region you're from. I speak to teachers, and they say to me, those were the days. You know, you can't do anything anymore. But things change. Nothing is good or bad of itself. We start create a storyline about what is good and bad, what's true and false, what's beautiful, what's ugly. That's the story we start believing. And everyone around us believes that story. People create groups. We believe in stories, plus we create power structures because we're hierarchical beings. You know, we're all equal. But I know more people. I was here first. You know, we're both project leaders, and I say, I run 3 projects. How much do you run? And you say?
5.
Yeah. It's how, you know, we know to play this game. We are hierarchical beings, and the thing is that within that storyline, some people become more powerful, and because they're more powerful, they have influence on the story. So if we want to change the story, they may say, no. People shape cultures, cultures shape people, we create hierarchies, and we are in this beautiful concept of giving and taking. We give and take. It's the loop of reciprocity we're all looked into. Because you gave a lot today to others. I mean, you gave information, you gave attention, you gave empathy, you gave anything, you gave products. So we receive all the time, and that needs to be in balance. If I give something, I get something back. If the other person gives exactly the same thing but gets way more back, let's say salary, I get angry. Then there's a disbalance. It's unfair. We live in a world with a lot of angry people. If we take from the earth, what do we give back? We live in a world where the earth is pretty angry, I guess, if we could talk to her. People give and take. We live in groups, we believe in those stories, we create power structures, and now we go through change. And then you'll see that on all those levels, things will shift. And that's what I want to talk about. What will happen when people go through change? Now, you use the word change all the time. But what does it mean? If you type it in an email, you type change, or transformation process, or transition, chaos, well, that might be the effect. If you think about the word change, what kind of words pop up? What emotions? Loss, fear, anxiety, insecurity, energy, curiosity, growth, redirecting, hope, opportunity. You know, it's this wonderful mix of things, right? I mean, it's this wonderful mix of things. So every time, so who is the change manager? Yeah, this is what you manage. It's a highly emotional process where the group might be splitting, where the story might shatter, where the power structures might change, where the whole reciprocity system might shift. People get emotional. So just checking if we live in the same world. Do you live in a world where there's something going on around climate? Where healthcare systems are breaking down or are not even building up? Educational systems where youth say, well, it doesn't really fit my needs? Where organizations say, well, they're not really, you know, brought up in a way that we can actually use them in our new workforce? Yeah. This is our world, right? So I thought, if those are all separate issues, then it's easy. Then you do education, you do climate, you do healthcare. We divide it, but it's not like that. So I'm an anthropologist, so I try to see what are then the patterns. Is it kind of the same thing? And if we know about that, we could change it. So then you talk with people around these issues, and then they say, you know what it is? We need something which is called system change. I'm sure you heard the word, system change. And that sounds great, right? Because systems is like we need a new system. So cool, who's going to buy it? And if we choose that, then we choose this system. We just implement it, roll it out, and that's it. It's not like that, and it's a culture change. System change equals culture change. Because people shape cultures, and cultures shape people. Cultures don't fall from the sky. From how we built the culture, it's how we built the system. We want to change the system, we've got to change our culture. Why and how? That's why I'll give you, well, a speed course, anthropology. I'll explain how people shape cultures in a few minutes. The nuance will be gone, I'm sorry about that, but, you know, the essence will stay. Because nothing has meaning of itself. People shape the meaning together. Culture is a sense-making system. We make sense of things. How do we do that? Now, we decide together, this is what we think is valuable. Those are our values. And if we think these are our values and we find it very valuable, you should act on it. So we create behavioral structures. You should behave the way we feel it's important, right? And if you have those behaviors, everyone should act on that because it's a group thing, so we create the norms. And some norms are very explicit. You know, they'll become into the law, and if you break them, you go to jail, you're fired, etc. And some are very implicit, and the group will make it very clear that that's not how it should be done. And now we have our narrative. This is our storyline. Because this will tell us this is good, this is bad, this is true, this is false, this is beautiful, this is ugly. We have our storyline. And now, from this, we start create the world around us. We create the physical world, the systems, how we create the cities, how we divide stuff, where to spend our money on. People shape cultures, cultures shape people. The systems we create are built on something we believe in. Now, how do people shape those cultures? Only two processes, well, mainly two processes you need to be aware of, and those are interaction and decision-making. Because if people don't meet, nothing will shape. We start meeting, we start interacting. You'll have views, I'll have views, what to deal with that, how to deal with that. How do we make sure that we listen to all voices? And then when that's clear, who will decide what's right, what's wrong, what's true and false, and good and bad? That's it. That's us. Now, we have this world we live in, right, with all these issues. What is the common thread? What's going on? Is there something which binds that? And I think there is. Because we put a value in the center of how we create our societies. And that value is that we need and we want economic growth all the time. Not just one time, all the time. It's an obsession. And I was thinking about that. And then I thought, let me write a letter. You know, when you have a difficult conversation with someone, sometimes you write a letter so you're sure that you use the right words. I wrote a letter for you, and I'll fetch it. So this is the letter. Dear deans, professors, teachers of the global business schools, political leaders, executive, and board members. You have failed. For decades, you've preached the doctrine that business exists to maximize profit, not to sustain livelihoods, not to serve society, not to care for the earth, but to inflate shareholder returns at any cost. You taught this as ideology. You taught it as law. You dressed it up in agency theories and efficiency models. You justified it as your duty to shareholders, and you preached it as gospel. What you call value creation is too often value extraction. And I'm truly sorry, I may sound harsh, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but let us be clear. Profit maximization is no natural law. It's late human invention, born of deregulation, finalization, and shareholder activism. Smuggled into boardrooms and classrooms, sold as scientific management, while masking a raw ideology of power. No moral philosophy makes profit the highest goal. You cannot plead ignorance. The evidence is overwhelming. From climate denial to public health debt tolls, profit-first models destroy ecosystems, hollow out communities, and entrench injustice. We see it everywhere now, sharp and painful. When profit rules, democracy dies. People die. And we feel the cracks running through our societies, our organizations, and our daily lives. And I feel you. Many of you truly try to do good, but too often you bolt ethics into the same broken systems. Corporate social responsibility, ESGs, purpose, hollow words, if the balance sheet still decides. Your website states people come first, but again and again your actions show that profit comes first. It's not enough to ask what works. You must ask what's good. I feel we're lost, but we're not forsaken. And let me be clear, I'm not against business. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm not against profit. I make profit too. But I stand here to remind you, business exists to serve life, not the other way around. Let it be said. The obsession with endless economic growth is not only wrong, it's dangerous. So I call on you to force new paths for the earth, for humanity, for you, for me, for our children. I count on you. Well, and then said, yours sincerely, Jitske. And I truly have that feeling that we're culturally lost. And I start sharing that word. I feel we're culturally lost. And in the process of writing the book, I talked with many people, with economists and other people, and they shared that feeling. So I thought, what do you need to do when you're lost? So I start reading survival guides. You know, what to do when you're lost in the woods. And I came across the name Tristan Gooley. And Tristan is a natural navigator. And he knows the way in nature without tooling, just by looking at the trees, the clouds, and the water. And I contacted him and I said, Tristan, can you teach me how to do that? And he said, yes. So I went to the South Downs in England, and he started teaching me how to navigate through nature without tooling. So it worked like this. We got out of the car and we started walking. You know, uphill, downhill, corner, corner, then a small lake, woods, uphill, downhill. And after about an hour, he said to me, okay, now it's your turn, find the car. I had no clue. And he said, okay, think out loud. I thought, okay. So we got out of the car, and then we went uphill, downhill. There was this small pool, there was this. And so I started live the whole journey. And I said, now we're here, so I think we should walk about that way. And then he looked at me, and there was this short silence. And he said, do you know where the car is? I said, I have no idea. And then he said, why do you pretend you know? He said, do you know where you are? I said, I have no idea. He said, that's your starting point. You're lost, right? Yeah, I'm lost. So now admit that you're lost. He said, people who are lost in nature and don't admit that they're lost, they die. That was a very clear guideline. So when you're lost in life, when you're lost in your project, when we're lost in the systems we try to keep running, and we don't admit, we'll die. I looked into other survival guides, and then I noticed that when people get lost, the first thing they do, they start quarreling. They start fighting. Because if you didn't do that, then, and those people, they also die. And then you also notice that when people get lost in the woods, then there's always someone in that group saying, oh, it's not that big a problem. I know the way, just follow me, it will be a painless journey. People who follow that person, they also die. Let that be a lesson for life, and especially in October. We got to admit that we're lost, but I said to Tristan, but that's a scary thing. He said, yeah, if you truly need to admit that you're lost, you need to look death in the eye. Because at that moment, you're like, oh, and that's scary. But we have to do it. And then what we see in organizations and in society, at that point where people kind of feel that, whoa, this is not the right way, they start asking for something. They want a spot on the horizon. And they want a very, very clear and nice vision we can follow, with a clear roadmap and no risk to follow the milestones. We want a spot on the horizon. So I asked Tristan, I'm very scared now. I want a spot on the horizon. He said, you want to know where the car is? I said, yeah. He said, but that's the whole point. You got to find it. You're lost. When you're lost, we don't have that spot on the horizon. It's not there. That's the whole thing. And even if so, then I could say, okay, I'm a manager, and my people ask for a spot on the horizon, and like with Pavlov, I give them one. And then that's the thing. I give them this spot on the horizon, and then they say, no, we don't want that one. We have a war on spots. When there is big changes, big transformations, we've got to find a way together. But I thought there must be easier ways as well. So I thought there must be simple changes too. You know, changes where we go from A to B. We know we're at A and we know we got to go to B, and it will be tough, but that can only mean that we know B, that someone's been there. But with big complex changes, we go from A to new areas. We may have desires and some broad views. If we have this, we can do the roadmap thing with the milestones. You know, that's easy. It will be difficult, but we know how to get there. With this, it's more like this. It's the feeling that you're in love with someone, but you don't know if that person also loves you. It's great, but it's scary. It's liminal. It's transformation. And I'll get to that word. Who doesn't know the word liminality yet? That's great. You'll learn a new word today. So the question is, if you look at all the change programs you work in and the plans you have in life, how big a change is it? Is it something small? Is it just small adjustments? Or is it totally new? Do you have an example? Is it your own choice? Is it imposed? What's going on in the change programs you go through? If there's big changes, and if there's moments that you don't know, anthropologists, we call it that you're in liminality, that you're betwixt and between. And I love that word. And that was the starting point in writing the book, Tricky Times. What is liminality? How does that work? I brushed the word off. It was coined by Arnold van Gennep, early 1900. And it was waiting in a corner of the academics to share with you today. Liminality, the messy middle of change. The period of time where you know that what was no longer is, and what will be is not yet there. So we are in this moment, what was no longer is, what will be is not yet clear. And what it is, it feels chaotic and uncertain. It feels like that. It might not be, but it feels like that. Because in this very moment, everything what used to be good might not be good in future. Everything what was normal might not be normal now. Everything we thought was beautiful behavior is now challenged. So we look for guidance. We're lost. And that's great, because being lost means that you can find new ways, that you let go of old frameworks, and that's the beauty of liminality. But it's scary too. And the good news is that we people, we Homo sapiens, we all go through 3 universal stages when it comes to transformation. And that's great, because now we kind of have a roadmap. Yeah, we know we need to separate from what was. We need to break from something. And we know that once we do that, we are in this liminal state. And there where we imagine new futures, where we have new ideas which we can connect and we decide that's what we bring into the future. And then we have integration stages where we redesign our world. It's beautiful, it's easy. And the beauty also is that we go through similar stages as an individual, a group, or a society. And I like that. It's like fractals. It's not the same, it's similar. And in the middle of that, we have this magical, extraordinary time. Because everything can happen now. We let go of the old. Now let's see. What do we need to optimize? Interaction and decision making. That was the 2 main processes. So we got to talk. But we have feelings, and those feelings are very conflicting. And that's where it happens. It is the stage which we want to limit in time, because it's not very nice. But we need to lengthen it to go through transformation. Let me explain that. I'll share a story from the individual level. And there's a typo there. That makes it human. I'll share a story from the individual level. Something would happen to me. But you can see the patterns on group level and also on society level, so bear with me. About 20 years ago, I fell ill, like truly ill, like the kind of illness that colleagues call a cab and say, you go home. There was a separation, a breakdown, and the old was not longer there. My body didn't function, and we didn't know what was going on. At that moment, I wanted a spot on the horizon and a clear roadmap, an inspiring vision to work for, and knowing when it was done. It was not there. I was liminal. I could rethink my life, and I did, I had to. And I could imagine other stuff. I didn't know, will it be well at the end? What does it mean? And I needed leadership, because I couldn't give structure to myself. I needed someone to say, now you take the kids to school, now you go sleep, you do this and that. That's leadership and structure. I needed that in that mere period of time. And I needed another kind of leadership as well, because I lost sense of me. Who am I without my work? What's my identity? I was looking around where I was living at that very moment, which was Leusden. Why? I looked at myself. What's so important in my life? I looked at my partner, thinking, yeah, that must have been a good idea at one point in my life. It's the moment where things stop, and you find time to rethink your life. That's what's going on in liminality. That's called transformation. It's not just changing behaviors, it's changing your value system. If values don't work anymore, you need to create new ones. It's breaking down a narrative, a story, and on the individual level, it's called identity. For a group, it's the culture. And you can say, well, that's great. You know, you have chances and opportunities. You go live somewhere else. You have the opportunity to find a new partner. Fun. Yay. But there is this other thing as well, and that's like this. I had lots and lots of days like this. Transformation is not so much fun. In organizations, we try to say, yeah, we have a challenge. It's not fun. You lose something as well. And in those moments, you need leadership. You need a master of ceremony guiding you through this messy middle of change. We can call those therapists or coaches. In other cultures, it's the shaman. And I had a coach, a therapist, and he said, don't worry, you're at the place where your soul's being built. Now you go build it. I said, John, that sounds really nice. But how? And then he told me, he said, it's easy. It's really easy. You just lay down, put a blanket over your head, and you feel and you listen. You look around, you talk with people, go back on the couch under the blanket. And if you listen clearly, you'll find the way. And he said, but don't go under the blanket with a bottle of wine. And don't be reactive, passive, and just, no, be active. But you need this moment of silence. That's where the answers lay. I said, but I don't have time for that. You got to make the time. And I think this is what's going on in our societies. We're at the place where our soul's being built. Now let's go build it. It takes courage, it takes empathy, it takes finding out, it takes listening, especially because at this very moment we might have different views on our next steps. We might have different views about our old narratives. We will have different views about where we go, so we have conflicts. We have, you can also call it creativity. It depends on your perspective of this process. People shape cultures in two main processes. Which are those? There's two people who actually listen to me. Thank you very much. There's two processes, which are... Thank you. That's what we need to focus on. So how well are you with interaction? Do you listen to all voices, or only one, or you're only your own? How do we deal with all those conflicting ideas? And if we don't, people will get angry, and they go on the street. And then we lose nuance, and we have loads of polarization, like you mentioned just at the start of this evening. The good news is that's a good sign. It's the sign that we are battling for new narratives. It's a sign that we look for different things. The only thing, can we listen to all the different voices? If not, people get angry because we're people. So this is what we need to do. Do we have enough conflicts? So do we have enough people to facilitate them and to guide us to this middle of change? Now, what we see, and that's kind of good news and bad news at the same time, is that when Homo sapiens, we go through transformation, we have universal dangers we have to deal with. And I'll share a couple of them. Not all of them. You'll find that in the book which is with you. But one is that there will be chaos in power. Why? Because, like I explained, nothing has meaning of itself. We have to create the meaning together. Culture is a sense-making system. So together we decide this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is beautiful, and this is ugly. And therefore, there will be power by people who can define this order. There will be definition power. And the ones who can define the world, they're usually not very willing to give that power up. And they're the ones who need to move. But they will have their privileges. Who gets to decide what? If you are in a position in an organization where you are a budget holder, you'll have definition power. And yes, you probably say diversity is great, as long as they think along my lines. Otherwise, it's just annoying. But that's the point. And when things change, who stands to lose and who stands to gain? That's the question. During liminality, there's a battle of control for narratives. During liminality, there's a culture war. Who sets the new norms? So there was a fight. Because we know that the ones who set the norm for the new narrative, they'll be in power in the new era. And there will be people fighting because they won't let go of their old. And there will be shifts in leadership, shifts in roles and systems. And that's great on paper. And that's great if you are the one gaining something. Not so great if you're the one maybe losing something, which are called privileges. And I think I can make the assumption that loads of us in this room have certain sets of privileges. They might be at stake. Because if our reciprocity systems are not fair, we might need to share what we have with others. That's great on paper. It's great if you do that first. People shape cultures, cultures shape people, nothing has meaning of itself. We are battling about what is right, what is wrong. And now, for example, we have in the United States forbidden words. And I'm sure you came across that, but it's forbidden to say women. Really, yeah, really, I don't make this fun. It's too difficult to make this up. And the thing is that the ebook of Tricky Times is not yet available on Amazon, which is, there's a technical glitch. It will be tomorrow, it will be fixed. But the thing is, it did cross my mind, whoa, might it be on the banned list? And just noticing that thought is in my mind, that's tricky, huh? Definition power, who gets to decide? I speak with a lot of people, also people in power. And what I notice is that many people in boardrooms, they say to me, I feel so lonely. Not in the first sentence, but when I talk to them and we dialogue, and I said, I feel powerless. I don't know what to do. There's loneliness in power. And then I even talked to one of our ministers. I said, well, but I don't feel I have the power. I said, if you don't have it, who has? But the feeling is true, right? Power, this word, feeling lonely, having tears. They're calling in now. That's good. It's Trump. You'll pick it up, right? I looked into the work of Julie Diamond, and she wrote a book called Power. It's a user guide. I highly recommend it. And she said, power is a skill, it's not a fact. And I like that. It gives room to breathe. And she said, you know, there's 5 principles of power, and I just share them with you because maybe you come across moments where you feel powerless, or you feel, what can I do in this world? And we're lost in that. Well, the thing is, power is human, you can't switch it off. It's there anyway. Even if you don't like it, others will use it, so you better, you know, level up. So we have it, we all hold it, and we all risk to misuse it, all of us. And the misuse, and that was an eye-opener to me, you misuse power if you use it too much, overstretch power over people, but also if you don't use your power well. If you underuse your power, you misuse power. And then she said, power is behavior, so you can learn it. It's a skill, and we hold not one power, we have many. It's plural, powers. So which powers do you have? Well, Julie says, these are the powers you have. You have loads of powers. Your positional power, your function, your role, the people you know, your expertise, your experiences, your insider's trust, your street power, you have loads of it. The question is, do you use it? If you say, you know, I'm not really a mother to my children, I'm more their best friend, you misuse power. You are the mother. If you are a leader and say, no, I'm not really a leader, I'm just part of the team. No, you're not. Maybe you are, but you're also the leader. You have responsibilities. I shared it with loads of people. And then Julie says, we tend to use the powers that are comfortable rather than the ones that are effective. So that's your challenge. And then I take the next step. And I say, if you feel powerless, to be honest, do you need more power or more courage? And I pose that question to you. And it's a fair question. Who feels that you need more power? Who feels more courage is needed? And that's what I come across. Many times people who need more power are new to an organization or feel junior, but the majority says courage. You don't need a training course for that. We can just step up and realize what are the patterns we need to break with. Then we're liminal. We got to find our way, and then we got to redesign the world. That's it. If we don't redesign, nothing happens. But then we come across the next danger, which is we might get lost in wild tales. And that's funny, because culture is something, its definition is that it's unique answers to universal questions. So we have loads and loads of questions which are universal. How do we deal with change? What do we do with leaders, with respect? How do we organize the world? What do we do with economic growth? Because we need growth, that's fine, but the fixation, that's one answer to the question. People create answers to universal questions, that's it. During change, we need to find new answers to old questions, that's it. We need to find new narratives. And we'll start fighting around it, because people shape cultures, cultures shape people. How do we do that? In 2 processes. Decision making. There's one thing, I really want you to remember that. And the other thing is, we do culture shaping by copying behavior of others and by echo stories. That's what we do. Now, during liminality, something strange happens. Because if it's unclear, who do we need to copy? And what do we need to echo? Do we copy the strange people? Who should we follow? Which story should we share? Because old stories might not be true anymore, we start to imagine new ways, so we have imagination, we have creativity. But what is right and what is wrong, what we used to believe in might not be true anymore, so we get crazy stories too, and it's hard to decide what's crazy, what's not. So I came across this one, do you know? Chemtrails. Yeah, if you know, you're probably on Facebook. It's chemtrails. The storyline is that, you know, there is geoengineering. So we know by chemicals how to change our climate, our weather, so we can make it rain. There's geoengineering. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. That exists. We know. And then there are people who say, yeah, so the ones in power, they spread chemicals so we can't think sharp anymore. I'm not sure. I came across this one. I think this one is easy. I don't think the earth is flat. I don't think so. But there's fierce discussion. I came across this one. That's more difficult, right? Is it true that big pharma has a big impact on our healthcare system and the type of vaccines? Yeah, I think would that be a good discussion to have? Yeah. But is it then also true that during COVID with the vaccine there was a chip? I find that more difficult. And some people say, yeah, but that's because it's not real people, it's reptiles. You kind of lose me now. But is it true that there is a new health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, who is changing data based on, So it has impact on what we believe. Then the question is, which narrative to believe? Can we have the discussion, the true discussion? When is it fake? When is it bullshit? How does that work? During liminal times, we need to have interaction and decision-making in a way that we can understand. But can it be so that there are people and organizations who rather not reveal the truth? Yeah, I'm sure you have secrets. And I can prove it by asking you, give me your phone, and I'll share everything what's in it with us. You probably say, rather not, because there are secrets. It's fine. We all have secrets. But sometimes in your life, it's good to share those with others so we can decide new stuff, right? But if we rather not reveal the truth, we have a couple of strategies. And the strategies, they flourish during liminal times. One of them is great. You got to make sure you hide the truth. You lock it somewhere, firewalls, passwords, so no one can see it. But it takes a lot of energy. And you're constantly scared that someone might see it. It works very well in dictatorships, but otherwise it's pretty harsh. So in democracies, it's better to drown the truth. It's way easier. So you flood the zone with shit, and no one knows exactly what's going on, and that's great. Just imagine that will happen. I hope you catch the sarcasm there. If you think this is too much effort, you do something else. You just blame it on someone. We don't have enough housing in the Netherlands because of the foreigners. Really? If you think that's too harsh, well, then blame it on all the rainbow people. This woke. You know what's going on, right? So we have scapegoating all the way. Because it's easier. It's a very old human skill. We make someone responsible for our pain. We kill that person or that idea, and I can go freely. It doesn't work. What we need to do when we question our world, we need to share what's going on. We need to admit where we are, right? And that means facing the truth. But telling truth is crazy in a world full of lies. So who goes first? It makes you vulnerable, but if we don't have that, we'll be lost in the woods forever. And some people like us to be lost in the woods forever. So then the question is, what's your favorite scapegoat? Because you can think, well, that's what others do. But in organization, we can't do it because of management. That's scapegoat management. The tax system, what can I do? The thing is, what's fact? What's fear? What's something you should own? So together we can go through liminal times into the future. Now, when I was researching liminality, and I went through all those dangers, I came across a word I'd never heard before. And maybe you know the word, maybe not. It's the word trickster. Who does not know the word trickster? You learn another new word. 2 new words in one evening. Tricksters. Tricksters are fun. Tricksters are great, and I'll share with you what tricksters are. I'll go to stories first, and then I bring that back to our daily lives. So, tricksters. Tricksters, you know them. Tricksters are in stories, in all stories. There's no story in the world without tricksters. And they're fun. They shake things up. You have Pippi Langkous, Langstrumpf, long stocking, I guess. Anansi, the spider, Reinhard, the fox. And they're all tricksters. And what they do like this. They have an endless play with boundaries, which is great. That's why Pinocchio is another trickster. Jack Sparrow is another trickster. And they're fun. You need to have them in the stories. If there's no tricksters, nothing will change. They create new words. They create new divides so we can look at the world fresh. It's cool. They're funny. They're energetic. You want to be with them. It's fun. Prometheus, for example, was a trickster god for the Greek. And what he did, he stole the fire from the gods and he gave it to the people so we can build civilization. Is that good or bad? It depends who you ask. Zeus was really, really angry, so he gave him a fierce punishment. Tricksters, they challenge the established order. The thing is, we need an established order to challenge. And that's where it goes wrong. If the tricksters become leaders, we have, let's say, Jack Sparrow as CEO and Pinocchio as political leaders. Just imagine. The funny thing is that if we don't have tricksters, we're stuck. So when I learned about liminality, if you say you have a framework of things how it should be, you need trickster energy. It's an archetype. You need the energy to challenge it, to challenge the status quo. It's fun. You need the energy. So liminality, you need the energy. But if we have, and now bear with me, if we decided to have a limitless value, an endless goal, let's say obsession with economic growth, we know from how we shape cultures, if you have a value, you create behaviors and then norms in the physical world. Remember? So we have like an endless, limitless value. What type of behavior do you then grow? Greed, behavior which is constantly playing with boundaries. It's trickster energy. And that means that we created a world where we constantly ask for fake it till you make it. The sky is the limit. Let's see what we can do. And it is fun. One of the greatest tricksters is Pippi. I love her. And I'm sure you love her too. But we always had a problem. When I was young and we wanted to play with Pippi, there was always the thing, because no one wanted to be Annika and Tommy. No, they're boring. Pippi has an idea, say, oh, will you really do that, Pippi? We need more of those. Asking the question, is it good or bad, or right or wrong? Tricksters, they have the quality to shake things up, but you don't want Pippi, in the management team, like 10 of them. It's fun, but nothing gets done. The thing is that a trickster energy is amoral. It's not on a moral spectrum. But we people, we need to decide, is it good or bad, right or wrong, true or false? So we need to put morality back in place when there's trickster tricks. So we need to decide, is something which is happening, do we feel that that's honest and sincere? And do we feel that is innocently seductive? Or is it charlatan or rude and criminal? What's our guideline? So let's take an example. In marketing, you see a lot of tricky tricks. If you see that grass fat does not mean that the cows spend their lives out in the field, then is that, if you put that on, it's terrible, is it? So do you think this is the moral judgment of this behavior? Is that like honest and sincere? Is that innocently seduced? What is it? Charlatan? The thing is, I don't have the right or wrong answer. It's what we need to decide. And if you feel it's charlatan, what do we do then with it? With people who show that behavior? Do we punish them or not? Do we say, oh, that's clever marketing? No, it's clever marketing, vape. You say it's good, it's better than smoking. Do you say it's bad? They took it to the extreme. And to be honest, the guy, the Adam Adam was an influencer, and he created this as a joke. And the people got angry, and he got death threats. And then he said, "You don't know, but it was a joke, and I'm not against vaping. It's better than smoking." It's like, then you're lost, right? Is it, what is it? And you see this in organizations, you see it in marketing, but you see it in your organization. There's this idea, there's this talk, there's this twisting of words, there's playing with boundaries. Is it good or bad or right or wrong? What do we feel? Is the interaction correct or not? And we see it on larger issues too. And if you watched the Dutch news yesterday, and I believe it must be global, there is this idea that let's build a Riviera in Gaza. It made me sick to my stomach. So what do we think? And what do we do? Tricksters are fun. We can have great memes, but what happens if we make them our leaders? They will shake the boundaries, they will be fun. They will make sure that we keep on growing. The question is we, who is we? They play with boundaries and facts. That's what we need to go through change. They challenge the status quo, they disregard authorities, and they battle with leaders and the establishment, and that's the thing. Tricksters are great on the side, but not in the center of power. Maybe you know a deck of cards and a card game. There is this one card which is a trickster card. It's the Joker. The Joker cannot do anything. He has to imitate all the time. But it's fun to have the Joker, right? How many Jokers are in the card deck? 4 or 6. That must be the southern part of Holland there. It's usually about 2. But let's say it's not 20, right? Because then we'll have a trickster clusterfuck. And I think we have that in many places. We put the trickster in power. We all want to have lots and lots of tricksters. But if we have that, we can't. We build a trickster culture. We build a culture because we say, well, the story is more important than the facts. It's constantly fooling others. It's fun. It's good. We call it marketing or a political spin. We adore people who play with boundaries. They're good. They're entrepreneurs. They're great. You can give them guidelines, but confusing trickster tactics with charismatic leadership, and that's what we all do. And we put tricksters at the center of power and not at the edge. That's where they belong. So it's not that we don't want tricksters. They're cool, but not as leaders. Be aware. And when I show this, people may accuse me of now becoming political. I'm not. I love to go back or forward to the situation where we can disagree about something fiercely. I don't mind about that. But let's base it on facts. And let's base it in some reality. And when I wrote the book, I wrote this down. And one of the professors, who I love dearly, he said to me, "You're such an idealist." It's not how it works. When I share this story at different organizations, they say, well, it's nice, but if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, let me be clear. If this is the kitchen, let's fix the fucking kitchen. How? Easy. Just. Honest. Sincere. Truth to power. And you know what to do. Do you need more power or more courage? Courage. So you're in this moment, and you're in your group, and the group does things, and they believe in things, and you are group people, and you believe in stories, but you have a different feel than what your group is saying. Do you speak up or not? That's the question. People shape cultures, cultures shape people. We create the word together. So, do we step up and have the right interactions? The good news is, I think we're lost, but we're not forsaken. That's the good news. We're there in the woods. We might not know where to go. Like when I was ill, I was in a liminal space and I needed leadership. Because without leadership, it's very hard to navigate the messy middle of change. So the only thing we need is some liminal leadership from leaders and from us, like your personal leadership. So what do you do? The question is, if you look at your personal leadership, where do you focus on? Do you focus on the past? Making sure that you don't lose too much. Maybe even go back to a past which was never there, but which you idealized. But it's good to take care of the past, right? Are you the one focusing on the present? As long as everyone now is fine. We need leaders who do that, desperately. And we need people also to look into the future. Then the question is, when does your future start and end? Is that next day? Is that the next week? Is that 7 years from now? Or even maybe 7 generations? Do you build the future for yourself? Or are you becoming a good ancestor? That's the question. We shape the world together. We do it every day. And that's what we need. We don't need leaders who put more conflict in the room. It's easy. It's not difficult. We need someone to create space. Because it's very hard if you really want to rethink where you're going. You need at least to have time to rethink what you're doing. But if everyone is flooding the zone with all kinds of shit, if there's constant movement, that's a tricky trickster trick. It's a tactic, making sure you cannot think anymore. Meaning that thinking and observing what's going on and seeing the patterns is maybe the biggest act of activism at this moment. And how sad is that? We need to create the physical space to have these conversations, to take the time to do so. We need to take time. We need to create magical time where we can rethink, where we can discuss what's old and new and how do we do that. We need head space to do so. So we need leaders to provide us with that. And then, when we have that space, and we sit together, maybe let's say at a campfire, at a metaphorical campfire where I am willing to share what's on my mind and on my heart. And I share my thoughts and my beliefs, and you do the same. And I say, you know, I'll be willing to be touched by what you say. And I'll be willing to maybe even change my mind and maybe even change my heart because of our conversation. And you do the same. Then we have transformational conversations. That's it. That's campfire conversations. It's something different than transactional conversations where we hit bullet points at each other. That's also nice. It's called a meeting. So the question is, do you have enough campfire conversations? Those moments of courageousness where you say, okay, tell me your story. Where are you from? Amsterdam. I mean something deeper, really, but we'll start slow. Yeah. Easy going. And we tune into each other and say, so what's worrying? And where are we going? That's the campfire. And then we suddenly have that space. And when I work with organizations, we get to that point. And then there's people, for instance, in healthcare. And they have the responsibility of a whole region in the Netherlands to take care of all the old people in that region. And there's just 15 people sitting there, people like you and me. It's like the board, but that's just 15 people who also need to go to the toilet once in a while. And they're there and they have this big responsibility. And they feel that, you know, people getting old and we don't have enough people to take care of that, and we have to take care of that within 5 years, and they're scared. And they feel lonely and helplessness. And then you take the time, and then the tears will be there. And then you need to hold space. You're at the place where your soul's being built. Now you go build it. But how do I do that? Put a blanket over your head and lay on the couch and listen. And have true conversations. Stay with the discomfort. Don't walk away from it. Just stay with it, be with it. And through that, we have our conversation. And then, yeah, we'll have conflict. Yes, because we have different views. And yes, I might be in the position that I lose something if we change. So I might be very fierce and you'll be different. And then we talk. And that's where it happens, because people shape cultures and cultures shape people through 2 processes, which are... I love doing that. That's all. So who decides what and why? And we need to help a dialogue to happen. And then we have all these views and these ideas, and we accept that we're lost. Cool. And at one point, we need to decide something. Because the other thing I come across in organizations and in people's lives is that we have all those ideas, but no one decides anything. And then we leave it, and then we have this great experience, we have this rush of this cool meeting and all these things we could do, but then the next day, you know, the email box. So we need to shift, and we need to actually redesign our world, so we need to facilitate movement, make decisions, turning ideas into actions, make mistakes, make them brilliantly, and learn from it. Because when you're lost in the woods and you don't know where to go, you want to find your roadmap, right? But it's not there. That's the whole point. You got to create it. You can't create a roadmap just by sitting at the fire. You got to walk. And you walk a route and say, no, this is not the right one. You walk back, and then you tell the others. You don't, keep it for yourself. You share it with the others. And the thing is, at that campfire, while you're lost, there will always someone, with a torch underneath their face saying, whoa, that's very funny. Don't make them the leaders. We need to rebuild, we need to create, and that's it. So people go through liminality, and that's how we transform. That's where it happens. We need to shorten that period of time, but like I said, we need to stretch it as long as needed. I explained when I was ill. In the end, it took a year. I didn't know that up front, but it took a year. And I know I got better, luckily. But I did change my life. I did decide to move to a different city. I got a different job and a new love. Things change. It is a change process. And there was no roadmap in the beginning, but it happened, and that's going through transformation. Transformation means that you not only change your behavior, but the value system. If we want new systems, it's a culture change. If we decide that we're lost in a cultural story of an obsession with economic growth, we need to shape a new story. And you probably ask me, which one? Give me the spot on our eyes. And I said, I don't know. We've got to find it together. So I'm in these woods. Remember, I'm still with Tristan. I hope you're still worried about that. Yeah, it was getting dark. It was raining. It was cold. It was England. So I was there. I said, Tristan, I'm lost. And I said, if you would not be here, I would actually be very scared. He said, I can imagine. I said, then what do I do? He said, well, the good thing is the British Army, they have this protocol. When people are lost, it's easy, he said. When you're lost, you make a cup of tea. I said, that's funny. I said, that's real British, it's like... He said, but it's true. He said, because you got to do 3 relatively easy things. You got to fetch wood. You got to find water, you got to make fire. If you find that, you'll be safe for 7 days. You have warmth, you have water, food comes later. Plus, you'll have a campfire. And you sit at the fire, and you hope that someone has like some tea bag with them. And then you look each other in the eye and say, now what? And this is the moment where truth comes in. If you start quarreling, from the literature, you'll die. If you don't admit that you're lost, you'll die too. And don't follow the one with a torch under their face. They're funny, but not as leaders. And then you discuss, and that's it. So people shape cultures at campfires. If we want to go through change, we got to light fires. We got to admit that the things which don't work, we stop them, we break with them, and then we're liminal. And in those liminal times, we only need to guide 2 processes. That's it. Yeah. That's it. And then you're at that fire. And at that fire, something else happens. Trump again. He's getting scared, I think, of all the power we create here. Yeah. At these fires, you sit together, and you got to remember who you are. And I love that sentence, because we know. We got to create our souls. We got to rebuild our souls, and we need rituals. And we need rituals to do so, to have this space to rethink what we need. You will find all of that in the book. When I did research around the rituals, I came across what is called a Kasala ritual. And the Kasala is a ritual from Africa. Different places in Africa, same type of rituals, different names. And the Kasala is beautiful. The Kasala is a ritual about names. And what we tend to do when someone does something wrong, we tend to send them away. Say, think about it and come back when you know, right? The naughty chair. In many places in Africa, they do it differently. They say, I'll remember who you are. They shout out your name, and they say, remember, you're part of this family. This is your aunt, this is your mom, this is your sister, this is your brother, these are the animals, this is where you live. And those songs can go on for hours. Remember who you are so you know where to go. I think that's what we need to do in society. Remember who we are, that we are human. And then we know where to go. And I wrote a Kasala because I had lessons from Jean Gabatu. And Jean taught me how to write Kasalas. So what I did, I wrote a Kasala for the trickster in all of us. Because you'll have a trickster in you, which is great. But tricksters in our society, they are a bit naughty. We need to know and remember who we are. Tricky trickster, this is me, humanity. I'm so grateful for all your cunning thoughts. Without you, I would be lost and stuck in opinions and habits. You question the obvious, you make me laugh. I admire you, your courage, your guts, your wordplay, you're brave. Tricky trickster, you who hold nothing sacred, you who push boundaries and shape new realities, you who scoff at authorities and so-called virtues, you who charm and bend boundaries and rules. Tricky trickster, this is me, humanity. I'm here to warn you, to ask you, to beg you. Your constant play with lies and truth imprisoned me between fact and fiction. First you popped up now and then, that was fun. But now you're here all the time, and with so many, you're everywhere, trickster. You drive me mad. Tricky trickster, I love you so much that I put you in charge, and I regret that now. Since I made you a leader, you have no one to fight against. When you're always around, there's no time to rest, no calm. Now that you're always steering things up, everything is limitless. Tricky trickster, sweet tricky trickster. I still love you as a rebel, but I will never choose you to be leader again. I promise you that. So we can be free again, the both of us. You to play with boundaries and create new spaces. Me to set my own boundaries and be inspired by what you do. Tricky trickster, this is me, humanity, that needs you but not all the time. That can learn from you, but not by becoming you. I promise to never ever confuse your tricks with charismatic leadership. I swear to be honest and truthful and to hold you accountable when you are out of line. Tricky trickster, this is me, humanity. I'm so grateful for all your cunning thoughts. Without you, I would be lost and stuck in opinions and habits. You question the obvious, you make me laugh. I admire you, your courage, your guts, your wordplay, you're brave. But I will promise that I will never choose you to be leader again.